I'm joined today by Douglas Mesner, also known as Lucien Graves, the co-founder and spokesperson for the Satanic Temple. Really great to have you on today. I think a good place to start, just to focus on the confusion some of our audience may have. What is the difference, and of course there are two different groups, between the Satanic Temple and the Church of Satan, which is something I think not everybody is completely up to speed on?
Well, the Church of Satan was, of course, founded in the 60s by Anton LaVey, who became kind of this iconic character with his goatee and bald head, and he was the author of the Satanic Bible. And one way in which we're similar is that we're both atheistic religions, and that we don't view Satan as an actual conscious deity. He's a metaphorical construct for us, the eternal rebel against the ultimate tyrant for us. However, the Church of Satan seems to fetishize authoritarianism, which is something we absolutely reject and find antithetical to the Satanic philosophy. Further, the Church of Satan still endorses supernaturalism. While they don't worship an actual Satan, they still engage in ritual magic and in tell tales of magic's efficiency and those kinds of things. We don't believe in at all. We reject supernaturalism entirely. And the Satanic Bible isn't the book we go off of. We draw from the literary tradition of Satan, from Milton to Anatole France. And LaVey drew heavily from a social Darwinistic text, Might is Right, written in 1896, attributed to one Ragnar Redbeard, which was really based on this kind of facile and incorrect idea on Darwinian evolutionary theory, which translated into nature, red and tooth and claw, and that sympathy, empathy, compassion were viewed in this kind of Nietzschean sense, that they're weaknesses, cultural byproducts that need to be weeded out of us. And of course, that doesn't mesh well today with what we know about cognitive science, game theory, reciprocal altruism. So we reject those notions as well, and we openly endorse compassion and empathy.
Let's talk a little bit about that concept of an atheistic religion. And to some, that might sound like somewhat of a contradiction. In other words, if you're atheistic, is your set of beliefs not something that would fall under the umbrella of a religion?
I don't think so. To me, you can't insist that a religion necessarily subscribe to supernaturalism. And this is more than just a game of semantics, because there's an actual legal question here that's very important. Religions enjoy certain exemptions and privileges that it would be reprehensible, I think, to deny people just on the grounds that they don't hold any superstitions. Jefferson, I feel, was quite clear on this in his writings, that religious opinion is protected. And in his biography, when he was elaborating on this, he said that religious protection was meant to protect even the infidel. So, but beyond that, beyond just a legal game, then we feel that Satanism has all the aspects of a religion that a religion should have. We have a sense of cultural identity, a symbolic structure, and a set of values that, in a narrative construct that really contextualizes our works and our goals.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of a kind of basic working definition of a religion as a collection of beliefs and, as you said, cultural systems, worldviews that relate humanity to an order of existence, so to speak. You would even think that under that definition, you could say that some types of science could even fall under that kind of very basic definition of a religion, at least with regard to the beliefs of our existence as humans. But the legal definition of a religion seems to differ from that somewhat, right? I mean, we're talking about two slightly different definitions.
Right. Well, I think the question is do these beliefs you hold guide your values, and are they as such that to compromise them really is an essential, fundamental breach of your sense of personal identity, your sense of cultural identity, and for that matter, when you're asking for exemption or privilege, it's on those grounds. It's not necessarily because you believe that some uh, ethereal father figure is watching over you and judging you as such.
What are the most important issues from your point of view that the Satanic Temple is either concerned with or discussing or working on? Are they specific issues, or are they broader in the sense of religious freedom and freedom from religion? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we have these broad values, and then of course they narrow down by subject every time that we feel they're violated. But issues of personal sovereignty are a big deal to us, and you'll see that we've run certain campaigns to offer people exemptions on the grounds that one of our tenets holds that the body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. And it's really on those grounds that we offered the exemption to women on informed consent laws. I'm not sure if you're aware of that campaign, but certain states pass through these informed consent laws, is what they call them, but it's really misinformed consent, where in order to get an abortion, women are subjected to this kind of state mandated informational material, which oftentimes is inaccurate and unscientific. And it's clearly a push from conservatives to dissuade women from abortion. And we also believe that people's information, their decisions, should be based on the best available scientific evidence. And as such, these informed consent laws, state mandated informational material, we feel is a violation of our religion. So we offered an exemption letter to women. Nobody's really taken us up on that yet, and we haven't had the opportunity to fight that in court. We've also offered exemptions for children in states or school districts where corporal punishment is allowed. 19 states still allow their school districts to beat children, and we feel that punitive beatings in the state setting is an egregious violation also of our beliefs, so that we can exempt children from that as well. People will then say that we're kind of abusing religious privilege, but we feel that these policies that allow these things to happen, these informed consent laws being introduced, the idea of spare the rod, spoil the child, they're only there because of fundamental religious beliefs to begin with.
As far as your organization, how big is it? In other words, how many members would you say you have?
People always ask that, and it's not as sensible a question today as it might have been 50 years ago, when you had a good hold of who your community is, and you're all within a certain region. And when we start our existence online, which we did, and we don't charge for membership. If people want a certificate or a card, they can purchase those. But otherwise, you can just sign up on the internet. Well, then we're in the tens of thousands. But as for how many active people, we're starting to cohere our chapter houses in different areas of the United States now, and we're only working on getting physical property for our first one in Detroit now. So we'll have a better idea, I think, of who is actively working with us when all is said and done there. But it's no insignificant number. It's the big problem we have right now is just being able to manage it all. There's so many people who want to work with us and do things with us. We've really struck a nerve.
No, there's no
this
question.
really speaks to a lot of people.
In hearing you talk about the specific tenets and issues that you care about, there's no question that there are so many who hold the same concerns and priorities that you do, but they wouldn't necessarily think to associate those beliefs and priorities with anything that falls under the umbrella of Satan. So I'm curious whether you think that in some way you may be limiting the interest in terms of who you might bring in under your umbrella because you've chosen the name the Satanic Temple. In other words, the beliefs you hold are very popular beliefs and growing beliefs in this country, but is the name something that might keep people away?
That question often comes up, and I think what's implied under that is that it's arbitrary to us, and being that we don't believe in a supernatural Satan, that we could have easily called it anything else.
Well, to
But
clarify, my implication was not so much that it was arbitrary, but that there are many other groups not connected to Satan that share similar beliefs and priorities.
right, right. Well, I mean that is a concern, but it's not merely a PR ploy. As I was going to say, it's something that does resonate to us with us, and it means something to a certain population. We really couldn't call it anything else, despite the fact that we don't believe in the literal truth of a Satan. But I think as time goes on and we establish what we're really about, it's not going to be that kind of liability anymore. And I think that's something worth fighting for, because my earlier background has to do a lot with the Satanic Panic. I grew up in the shadow of the Satanic Panic. I grew up in the Midwest, and there were these fears of these satanic cults, the Satanic cult conspiracy, murdering more people per year, they would report, than the average U.S. homicide rate in general. And yet there was never any credible evidence for this at all. And when I got older, I started looking into it and meeting with people who self-identify as Satanists, people who were blamed for being part of some type of satanic conspiracy that never existed. And I got very wrapped up in the recovered memory controversy. There was this therapeutic technique, recovered memory therapy, where the thinking was that any symptoms of melees were indicative of previous abuse that had been suppressed somewhere in the unconscious mind, and it could be drawn forth during hypnotic sessions. And it was during this process of recall that these people would confabulate these bizarre stories that always oddly seemed to fit the assumptions of the therapist. It's exactly the same for alien abduction. And so as I deconstructed this mythology of Satanism and saw that people's lives were ruined in a modern witch hunt, within my own lifetime, regarding really superstitions regarding supernatural crimes, I then grew less tolerant of the notion that we should stay away from any mention of Satan or Satanism, and we should relegate it to where the conspiracy theorists had put it, as being necessarily a product of a criminal cult conspiracy and evil. To me, repurposing it or bringing it to light in some other way, giving it some other meaning, is part of a higher calling. And I think if we force people to really reassess their prejudices and assumptions and judge people for what they've actually done or actually do in the real world, we'll have done a great thing.
I've been speaking with Douglas Mesner, also known as Lucien Graves, co-founder and spokesperson for the Satanic Temple. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.